Hey guys, it's Morrison here again from YWAM. Today I'm going to share with you 5 keys to having a great DTS. Now these are my opinion, and I've sort of put this list together because I've talked to so many people who are considering a DTS, and really this is the advice that I give them. So let's roll it. So the first key I want to talk to you about is submit yourself to God. Or maybe I should say, submit everything to God. Really, a DTS is not a time to hold back. It's not a time to keep things hidden for yourself. Say, hey God, I want you to influence this part of my life. I want change and breakthrough in this part of my life. But I'm actually, here I'm comfortable. Who knows, maybe God won't touch those things that you're comfortable with. But if you're holding those back, if you're holding anything back from Him, yeah, it's just going to be maybe a fun half year, hanging out, meeting some new friends, but the real value that is available, you won't really touch it very much, especially the lasting impact. So really, to make this worthwhile, submit your whole life to God. I mean, Paul writes this in Romans 12, present your whole body, your whole life as a living sacrifice. And this is exactly my tip for a DTS. But you might notice this applies really to all life, and all of these tips that you can be applied in more than just the DTS context, but really to have a great DTS, this is something you need to bring with you. So key number 2 is to be open to new things. No matter who you are, no matter how old, how much experience, everyone can still learn. And that means on your DTS, everyone still has something to learn from every teacher. Sometimes things are going to come up that are really strange for you and you have no experience with, or maybe just bad experiences with. But that's going to happen when we're such an interdenominational organization. And that's really, I think, a strength as well, that we can take this time, be surrounded by people who maybe think and believe a little differently than us, and we can sharpen each other. But this doesn't work if you just close the doors on everything. Jesus says, judge something by its fruit. And exactly this, you need to judge by its fruit, and you can't taste the fruit unless you give it a try. So be open-minded, and this takes humility, but it also takes courage. And especially on outreach, it's going to take a lot of courage to try new foods, just be immersed in a new culture. You're not in your comfort zone, but you're in a space to learn. So the third key is to practice obedience, and that sounds a little dangerous, doesn't it? But obedience is such an important thing to practice, and the DTS is a perfect opportunity for that. It doesn't mean that your leaders will get everything perfect and your outreach leaders will get everything perfect. Actually, pretty far from it. In YWAM, we want to encourage and empower young leaders to step out, and with that, there's just always going to be some inexperience that comes into play. But to practice obedience and submission, even to inexperienced leaders, that's such a character school. And that creates trust both ways between you. And without this, you really won't come far. It's just going to be disunity, disharmony in your team, and eventually someone's just going to give up. And number 4 is to challenge what you believe about yourself. And the best way I can explain this is through some examples. When I came to my DTS, I really had one view of myself, and it wasn't so conscious. But towards the end of the lecture phase, the end of these 3 months, I had such a realization. I remembered, wait a minute. Before this DTS, I thought basically the opposite about myself as I do now. But because I was in a group of people who didn't know my history, my context, and I had this chance to have a fresh start, they could see me without all this baggage that I was carrying, the things that I would believe about myself, that I wasn't social, that I was bad at dealing with people's emotions, and that I really couldn't do anything but hurt people. And in this time, people would affirm me almost every day that I was helping them, that I was a good friend, that I was kind. And really just these simple things totally healed my heart and changed my view about myself. And the fourth key that I have would be just make sure you take quiet time every day. And what we mean by quiet time, that's a very YWAM word. Quiet time, it's a daily time where you give to God, you spend time with God. So that could be spent in the morning, reading your Bible, praying, or just like a time listening to worship music, just a time where you can choose to connect with God. I mean, we have this example from Jesus. We see Jesus do this many times in the Gospels. He goes up on a mountain, and I mean, the mountains are a little bit far away, but you could swing it if you wanted to. Where he goes up on a mountain and he just connects with God before anything else. And this is such a good practice for everyday life, but especially in a DTS, you don't want to miss this. So maybe there's other keys that you would think of, but for me, these are so important. With these, it doesn't really matter what kind of food you're eating or how cool your staff are, because you're giving God this space and He's going to do something wonderful. He's not going to leave you hanging. So that's been it from me. Until next time.